Hi and welcome to another video. Today I'm going through my independent contractor financial year sort of tracking system with a big disclaimer. This was set up and designed for Australian independent contract holders. So if you are not Australian, a lot of this may not make sense. You could probably edit it to work with an American or Canadian, European sort of system, but this was designed for Australians. So I want to make that super clear because these sections right here especially are really important for Australians when we go and see a tax agent. If you're an independent contractor, you are not paid into your super automatically, which is our retirement fund. That is something you need to put in manually. And in order for that to reduce your taxable income, you have to submit something called an intent to claim form through your super account. That is what this little section is talking about. An ABN is an Australian business number. A TFN is your tax file number, and they also ask for your license number as proof of identification. So if you are from another country, you could totally change this section to represent the sort of identifying information you are required to provide to your tax agent, but this is set up for Australians. So overall, the way this works is you go ahead, put your occupation in here. I've left a little section to add notes to your accountant, and from doing this myself, I found out your accountant wants to know what you're buying and selling as far as shares go, so they can figure out your profit margins in order to calculate that into your yearly expenses and income. Moving on from this top section, we move down into the main body here. So what you will use this for is every time money goes in or out in regards to your business. So you would start with the description of what it is, whether it's your paycheck, whether you're buying new tools, whether you are investing in education. Put that in here, the date that was paid. If it is income, it goes into this section. If it is a fixed wage or a variable. So a fixed wage would be if you are a subcontractor for a delivery company. You work the same hours at the same location every week and nothing changes. That would go into fixed wages. Even though you are an ABN holder, you have a permanent job. If you are, however, working for yourself, you have clients, you would put it under variable because your income changes week to week unless you are paying yourself a fixed wage. Then it would go in here. And throughout the year, as you total these up, it'll total here in wages and variable wages, so your tax accountant can see how much you've earned gross. The next column is if the description you've put in here, say you've bought tools or invested in education, you would come over here and put it in a column of your choosing. When you get this spreadsheet, I would hope you would go ahead and change all these headers to your 5 most frequently used sort of expenses. So say one would be tools, one would be vehicle maintenance, maybe one is uniforms, that sort of thing. And then there's an other column for everything else that is super random and doesn't happen all the time. Just chuck it under other, and they will get totaled up the top as well, so you can break down what expenses cost what. Then as we scroll over, for every expense, I want you to put in here the percentage that it is a business use. Say, for example, you bought a wet dry vacuum for your shop. It is 90% business use. Sometimes you take it home every now and again to do some work around the house, or you use it to clean out your personal vehicle. Be honest about that. Go ahead and put 90% in there. It's important that you always put a business use classification in here, because that determines how much of that work-related cost is actually claimable. And that calculation will automatically happen here as you put in a value amount on this side and then the percentage use on this side. And it will total that up here for you. And lastly, if you document all of your receipts, as in you take a photo of them, store them in a cloud service, like Google Drive, something like that, you can paste the individual link to each receipt here. so that when you send this off to your accountant, if there's anything they want to double check, they can go through and click the link. Just make sure wherever you are storing those receipts is publicly available to anyone with the link. If it is set to private, then they will not be able to view it, and then you'll have back and forth with your accountant. The next sheet on this spreadsheet is for appointments. This is a way for you to keep track of your customers so that you can have it all in one spot. So over here we have job status. So if they've booked, if it's in the work is in progress, waiting on supplies, and if it's completed / paid. Now you can put the date of their booking and the time, first name, last name, and mobile number. If they're a returning customer or not, because I know for a lot of us, having someone who's a return customer, we tend to give them better deals and stuff like that. So I think that's really important to have. And then some quick information about the job. This is not the detailed notes. I assume you put those detailed notes on your invoices. This is just a quick reminder to you what this job entails. The total value of the job. And if you take a deposit for your jobs, you can tick this column off or on. If you do not take deposits for your work, go up here to the column and then right click delete column if you don't need it. And of course, invoice link. Your accountant will not be seeing this page. When you export for your accountant, you'll only be exporting this singular page, which is done through File, Download, PDF, and from there you can specify what pages you want to download. But these invoice links are just for a quick reference for you in case there's any ever sort of claims against your work, or there's anything you need to refer back to about the actual work. You can put the invoice there. And finally is logbook. If you are using a vehicle for your work, you will need to track your kilometers in order to claim that fuel usage back on tax. With this sheet, as always, the more information you can provide, the better, because it'll be easier for your agent to justify that cost. So in here, this would be your name, the registration of the vehicle, the date you started this log, and the date you finish it. Now, there could be company vehicles you have, maybe you have multiple vehicles. So you would still put your name and the registration of the vehicle here. However, if you're not the one driving it all the time, you may have someone else signing off on the data because perhaps they drove the vehicle, so they would put the date that they gave you the information here and the person who gave you the information here. But basically for each trip you do a start date and an end date and put the purpose of the trip, as well as the odometer reading when you started and when you finished, and this will total the kilometers for you per trip. And of course the sign off, this is basically only required if someone else is driving the vehicle, but if you want to, you can put your own name down for person making the entry. Again, the more information you fill out, the better it is for you. In Australia, to claim fuel usage, your agent usually only needs 3 months of continuous logging. So if you are doing work for 3 months solidly using this tracker, you should only need to do it for 3 months before you can stop, give that data to your tax agent the next financial year, and they can use that to figure out your claims for the entire year. Again, that is for your tax agent to decide. If you want to do more than 3 months, that's great. Always, the more you can do, the more information you can provide, the better. I just want to quickly say I am not a tax agent. I am just an independent contractor myself. I am sharing the sort of information that I've been asked to give my tax agent to hopefully make it a bit easier for you. If you require different information for your tax agent, then make sure you make those changes to this sheet as you need. Thank you once again for watching through my video. I'm sorry I don't have a more universal sort of sheet for you guys. I'm Australian. I can only reliably do things for an Australian when it comes to our tax and super system. But thank you so much for watching. Check out some of my other videos if you're interested, and I'll see you all next time.